Okay, one thing I realized I forgot to mention was sharpening images. Okay, a lot of times old photos that people are trying to repair aren't perfect, are a little soft looking, and people would like to sharpen them up. Okay, now if they're like a studio photo, like this probably was, well, maybe it was, you know, a formal photograph, uh, then um, it's probably pretty sharp already. If the scan comes from some tiny, crappy snapshot that was blurry to start with, a very low quality, soft image, you can't fix that. Okay. Um, Sharpening an image is probably the number one way that Photoshop newbies destroy photographs. You can make it look much worse by trying to sharpen something. But a very blurry image, um, there's just the information is just not there where the details are. There just are no details. Okay, and when you see people doing that in movies and stuff like that, kind of magically enhancing a photo in that way, that's science fiction. Okay, you can't make a sharp image out of a really soft one in Photoshop or anywhere, but unless you get a camera and take the picture again. But but for something that's just a little bit soft, you can definitely sharpen it up. I create a lot of 3D renderings, and just because of the way the software works, they sometimes the edges are just very slightly soft. Not that you'd notice, but a little bit of sharpening will fix that up. So the way you would do that if is go to filter sharpen, okay? And there's all these choices here, and the only ones of interest are unsharp mask and smart sharpen. Okay, unsharp mask is smart sharpen is good. That's kind of like a newer version. Unsharp mask is kind of the classic one, and that's what I use most of the time. Um, so it sounds kind of odd, unsharp mask. It's actually that word comes from, it's a pre-digital term that comes from a way of sharpening a darkroom technique for sharpening photographs that employed two panes of glass sandwiched together around a negative, I think, if I recall correctly, and it could create a sharpening effect. And basically, what it does is finds where all the edges are and increases the contrast along the light and dark sides of the edges. Okay, and if we just look at it here, the amount is how strong the effect is. The radius is how wide it considers the edge um, of the how wide it considers an edge to be sharpened, and threshold. I always leave threshold alone and let just Photoshop decide what should or shouldn't um, be sharpened. Okay, so the amount you can go pretty big, right? The radius has to stay small. Okay, if I turn the radius way up and say, here you can see what happens. Okay, so that photograph is being damaged. Okay, it was better before. Definitely looks sharper. Okay, so usually I keep the radius way down, like around 1 or something like that. And you just like look at some detailed part of the image and see, like the highlights in the eye or something like that, and see if you're losing detail or not. Okay. Anyway, let's see if this is going to help it at all or not. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Well, doesn't hurt this image. I don't know that it really needs it. But anyway, I just wanted to mention sharpening. Generally, like the way it looked when I dragged the slider way up there, you don't want to do that. That's degrading the image. Okay, back to our retouching. There's some other tools besides the clone stamp tool, and they're right above it here. So you have the spot healing brush tool, and patch tool. Okay, these ones are are kind of separate, but the top three. So the spot healing brush tool, this one, all of these will only work if you're in the middle of a field somewhere, okay? If you're trying to fix something along an edge, like we were doing, along the edge of the arm and places that are specific like that, you have to use the clone stamp tool, okay? So, get used to it. But some of these, like the spot healing tool, that's really good if a lot of times you'll get a scan that had, or a photo that there was dust all of the negative when somebody made the print, and there's a lot of little white dots you have to get rid of. So like say here, I'm going to try this spot healing brush tool, okay, and see it just, mine has the hardness turned up by default, but I don't actually see edges from it, so I think I can leave it alone. So let's try it here. What if I do it close to the edge? It's still okay. All right. There is this image does have, this image has been saved as a highly compressed JPEG. See how this like kind of square-ish patterns in the background? And it's not really, honestly, a great image, but it's working for our purposes. But watch out, using that too much might start to get oddly smooth looking. But anyway, so that works pretty good. The spot healing brush tool for when you're away from edges, okay? If it's wider, make the brush bigger. It's working pretty good. Okay. The next one is the healing patch tool. Okay. Is that what it's called? Healing brush tool. Sorry. So this one requires an origin like the clone stamp tool, all clicking, but it doesn't work exactly the same. It just copies the color information and not the tone. So sometimes it blends in, helps it to blend a little bit better. So see if I just, whoops. So I got to alt click to start, and then I paint, okay. But if I run over the edge, it blends them together like that, okay. So you still can't use it on the edge. Honestly, I don't use this tool very often. We'll see how it works here. I just usually use the clone stamp tool for any situation where I might use that. The spot healing brush tool, though, I really like that for, like I said, for bits of dust and little dots like that. And then the patch tool, okay? Let me find a place to do the patch tool. I've painted out all the bad spots. But let's go back over here. So the patch tool, what it does, it works like the clone stamp tool. Honestly, it's once you learn these things, to me, other than the spot healing brush tool, I use that and the clone stamp tool. Really, that's it. But this thing is kind of interesting because you draw a line, a selection around the area that you want to get rid of, and then you click in there and just drag it off to some area that has what you want. And it like blends it in. Then you have to go select, deselect, okay? And that works pretty good. Not bad. This image looks really brutal when you zoom in. I mean, it's not very good, but like I said, it's good for practice. So I think I covered everything that I intended to with this for repairing damaged pictures. So try to do this one as good as you can do it, and let's hand that in, okay?